Hello everyone, my name is Jack Firefox and today I am bringing you something new. A guide on a champion I adore so very much, Jayce, the Defender of Tomorrow. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the different summoners, runes, items, and abilities with a few tips and tricks sprinkled in between. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so to start this off, summoners is going to be what we talk about first. With the most essential and most needed summoner is going to be Flash. It is fantastic. It is a must on most characters except for an exceptional few. It allows us to reposition. It allows us to do some cool little interactions that I'll be showing you later on in the video. And so that's just a must. Whether you put it on D or F doesn't really matter, but I'm a more of a D for Dasher than an F for Flasher. Now, the next summoner spell that we want to work on is going to be either Teleport, it's going to be either one of two, Teleport or Ignite. So teleport offers us the ability to teleport to a structure, and then afterwards, when it upgrades, it allows us to teleport to a champion, ward, or champion or minion, which allows us to back and get to something within a reasonable time. That's called tempo. So basically, imagine there's a dragon coming up, right? And it's 20 seconds, right? And you're close to an item. Well, if you're close to an item, you might, and you don't have teleport, you might stay to farm and back, get that item, and be late to dragon, which could cause terrible things to happen for your team. Now, on the alternative with TP, with teleport, you can go ahead and get that gold for the item, recall, buy the item, and teleport to be there just on time, which is huge. It could be also used for flanking. TP is such a versatile summoner that I would say this is the second must have on Jayce. But there are a few lanes where with Ignite is another great option, especially mid lane. I would say is the better of the two lanes to use Ignite with, because with mid lane you have more kill pressure, which allows you to have more control over the lane. So you can go ahead and get the lane pushing into their tower and make it so that it's an easier time for your jungler. So that ends this section. So the next section we're going to be talking about real tidbit here on the skins. The most pay to win skin for Jayce, so to speak, is going to be Forsaken Jayce. Now the reason for this is because it makes the cannon Q skill shot look much smaller than the actual hitbox is. So it definitely throws people off, and you can get some really nutty Q shots with it. And so that finishes this segment. Now, the next section that we're going to be talking about is going to be runes. Now, runes, there are quite a few options for Jayce, actually. You might be surprised. So we have the bread and butter most used Jayce rune page, which comes out to be Phase Rush. So Phase Rush Jayce, you get 3 hits and you're gonna get a lot of move speed, a lot of kiting ability. You got mana flow ban for mana and mana regeneration. We've got absolute focus to increase our damage, right? When we are above a certain amount of HP, which will increase our Q damage. And then we have Gathering Storm so that the longer the game goes, the more damage we're gonna be doing overall. Inspiration secondary, so we could either do magical footwear or we could do triple tonic. It all depends on personal preference with this one. I personally like to have the free boots, but other people are gonna have the tonic for the sake of being able to get some early buffs at 3, 6, and 9. Now, the second one is going to be biscuit delivery, but you can also potentially go for future market if that's the alternative there. And then we're going to go double adaptive, and you're going to see in a lot of these, you're going to choose double adaptive. Now, the reason is because Jayce doesn't really need that much attack speed because your W is an attack speed steroid. And we'll talk more about that in the abilities section of the video. So the only one that I would say that has optional choices is going to be the health versus health scaling. Now, the reason why this is a potential option is because with health flat, you're going to have a lot more early game trading. So this is basically from level 1 to 4 because after around level 6 is when it evens out and you're not really going to get a lot of value out of it. But from level 1 to 4, this actually lets you have more HP usually than the enemy champion, so you're going to be able to trade with them much better in the early game. Now, the scaling HP is going to be better, like I said, after a certain level, which I believe is anywhere between 6 to 9, and then after that you're completely squared with the person, and then you're gonna gain more HP with them as it goes on from there. So that ends this one. Now the other room pages that we can use is inspiration would be the second most popular, which the reason for that is because we get to stack that money every time that you land an ability while first strike is up. A percentage of that is going to turn into gold, and now, the longer the game goes, the more damage First Strike is going to do. So initially, it's not going to do that much damage, but as it gets to the mid to late game, it's going to do absolutely heaps of it with your poke and whatnot, and also just giving you more and more gold as the game progresses. And then we're going to go Magical Footwear, Biscuit Delivery, and Cosmic Insight with Sorcery Secondary, and we're going to go Transcendence because the goal of this one is to be able to have your abilities and everything as quickly as possible to keep this rotating. Double Adaptive, same choice with the health and the health scaling, and so that finishes that room page. We also have my favorite room page, which is the new, well, not new, but it's coming back, Electrocute Jayce. This one is extremely early to mid game oriented damage. So you're going to have a lot of lane strength. You're going to be able to bully the crap out of your lane opponent with this. So after 3 attacks or abilities in, separate sequence, so in a, like for example, an auto attack, ability, auto attack, or auto attack, ability, or 3 separate abilities, you're going to get a massive spike of damage on the enemy. And sudden impact is works really well with your hammer form Q, as it will give you a burst of lethality, which will increase the damage you do to somebody because it takes away their resistances. Now, eyeball collection is the better option here because these other two aren't very good. Eyeball collection, you kill somebody or you get an assist on somebody, and you're gonna get AD basically for each of those stacks. Now, relentless hunter is what I chose here. You could also do takedown hunter if you don't care too much about the movement speed, but I care about the movement speed. For roaming, it's super good. And then secondary is going to be precision with presence of mind for mana regeneration, and last stand for more damage as you get lower HP, which does happen with Jayce quite a bit. And then we're going to go double adaptive, and HP choice is up to you. With this one, I definitely do push the idea that you should go flat HP because, like I said, this is a very early aggressive room page, so you want to go in as quickly as possible. So, for example, talking about the HP one more time, with the safety and the money, you're probably going to want the scaling HP. With the electrocute and potentially the conqueror, you might want to have the flat HP because of what I'm going to say next. Now, conquer, this room page is for consistent trading. So what that means is that if you believe that you're going to be fighting for a longer period of time than just your short little burst window, you're gonna go for this, and you're gonna and this is gonna give you more like power in the lane to consistently fight against some people that you normally wouldn't be able to consistently fight against. And so we go conquer, presence of mind, alacrity increases our attack speed, last stand. We're gonna go inspiration for the magical footwear and biscuit delivery. And that is pretty much it for all the possible room pages that you can do with Jayce. So we're going to be talking about items. Now, items, very straightforward thing with Jayce. Luckily enough, there's not too many different builds with Jayce that you can go, so he's not like as flexible as other characters. So he fits a very specific role on the team. He is the guy that is going to be pumping out tons of damage and is going to be doing it from mostly range, and sometimes going in like crazy. And so the items that we typically go starting off the game, just gonna say it like straight up, it's gonna be Doran's blade. Now, the reason why it's Doran's blade and nothing else is because, well, Doran's shield isn't too great an item for Jayce, in my opinion, because I mean, this is just too good. 10 attack damage, 100 HP, and 3.5 lifesteal. It's just the perfect item for Jayce. And then some people go, for example, tier, and some people go for longsword, but I think this puts you under potential jeopardy of dying early on in the lane, especially against aggressive lanes. So I don't really vouch for any of these other two item starts. Now, the first back, what that should look like, you should always get Tear of the Goddess on your first back. Now, the reason for this is it's going to increase your mana, so you're going to be able to throw out more abilities and whatnot. But the second reason is because you want to get this stacking as soon as possible to build into Muramana and get that big fat pop off with Muramana as the upgraded one. So we want to get to Muramana as quickly as possible. Now, if you're broke and you didn't get back with enough gold, you would go tier and as many long swords as you can. So probably since you can't afford Dirk or Caulfield, you're probably just gonna end up with 2 long swords. And then if you have enough gold for it, a fantastic first back is gonna be Tear of the Goddess and a serrated Dirk or a Caulfield Warhammer. And always, and I mean always, as a new player, an existing player, or what it might be, your first back, you want to get a control ward. If you have the gold for it, whichever back that you have a little bit of extra gold for, always pick up a control ward just to have it in your inventory so that you can either replace your. So you want one control ward on the field and one control ward in your inventory for the most part. Now, mind you, it's going to be like buying a control ward, putting it somewhere, and then your next back, you're going to buy a control ward again just to make sure that if your control ward gets taken out, you can put another control ward down. And then that's pretty much it for the first back and whatever other potential backs, talking about that control ward stuff. And so the next section we're going to talk about here is the boot options. Now, the boot options is very straightforward. Boots of Ionia is essentially the boots that you want to get if you are spamming. If you want to spam more Qs, more Es, more Ws, more of everything, you want to get Boots of Lucidity. So this is going to get you more rotations with your abilities. And then on top of that, it's also going to get you more rotations with your summoner spells. So this is really nice with Ignite, for example, so that you can lower it just a bit more to get Ignite more often, or TP more often, or Flash more often. All great things. Now, Boots of Swiftness is my personal favorite boots now that I've been using. It just gives you flat, crazy amounts of movement speed while also reducing slow effects on you. And so that's great for the build that I'll be talking about later as we get towards the core items and the optional items. And then finally, we're going to talk about plated steel caps and mercury treads. Jesus Christ. Uh, Plated steel caps gives you armor, movement speed, and damage from incoming attacks. So what that line of text means is that when people auto attack you, it's going to do 12% less damage. So these are fantastic boots. So if the enemy team's like a stack of AD characters or physical damage characters, to put it into a more understandable thing. So if the enemy team's like Talon, Jax, Trendamere, Draven, things like that, and there's no AP, plated steel caps is primo, amazing, fantastic. And then Mercury treads is basically the opposite of that. Or if they have a ridiculous amount of CC. So if the enemy team has a bunch of magic damage, you want to get Mercury treads to reduce that magic damage while also getting that tenacity, so that if the enemy team is stacking a lot of hard CCs such as stuns, roots, and snares, it's going to pull you out of those things much quicker. 30% is absolutely nothing to scoff at. Now, going into the next part of this, these are your core items. What that means, typically for every character, there are a set of 3 items that work really well together or like mix really well together. that you're gonna choose from most of the time. Some characters have bruiser builds that have 3 core items. Some have magic build. Some, with the same character, there's like magic build, tank build, and there's 3 core items that work really well together for each of those. Now with Jayce, he's pretty straightforward. It's a lot of damage items, a lot of movement, or items that give better trade value, or items that give armor penetration values. So here's how these 3 cores work, or here's how these 3 different core work for Jayce. So you have Opportunity, Mana Mune, and Ghostblade. These 3 cores is Giga Movement Speed Jayce. This is going to give you extreme amounts of movement speed, roaming potential, spacing potential, everything, all of the above. It's absolutely fantastic if you put it towards Electrocute, where Electrocute would give you less movement speed comparatively to Phase Rush. Now, another another combination that you can go is going to be, oh my goodness, is going to be Eclipse, right? Eclipse, Manamune, and what the heck? Eclipse, Manamune, and and Sharilda's Grudge for Armor Pen. Oh my goodness. Sharilda's Grudge for Armor Pen, or I don't know why it's doing this. Give me 1 second. You've got Sharilda's for Armor Pen, or you can go Profane Hydra for more damage to characters, and also giving you an extra ability activation with your item. And then you also have the final combination, which is Yomu's Manamune and either Profane Hydra or Eclipse. So that's pretty much the combinations. You always want to have Manamune. That's always going to be your second to third item. So you're going to have the tier sitting in your inventory, and then you're going to upgrade this whenever the tier is finished. So if you buy your Eclipse after tier, and your tier's not done stacking, you're going to buy the third item instead. And then once your tier's done stacking, you buy the Manamune. And so we're going to move to the next part of this, which is the fourth to fifth item options. With Jayce, there's not a lot to talk about here. You have, if you build any of these items but not Sharilda's, you're going to have to pick up Sharilda's, because otherwise you're going to be lacking a lot of armor penetration. You want to make sure you have a lot of armor penetration. Edge of Night is absolutely fantastic for fifth item in your build. The reason for that is because it gives you a really nice spell shield to avoid certain unwanted skills hitting you, such as stuns and whatnot, snares, roots, etc. Mama Mortius is a fantastic 4 for 5 item, because if the enemy team is sitting with a lot of AP, you're gonna want to build this to avoid being killed. Spear of Chojin is fantastic 4 for 5 item for being able to spam your QEs a lot. Kempunk Chainsword, unfortunately, I wouldn't really recommend this item a lot unless you're against a super high healing enemy team and your teammates don't want to build Grievous Wounds. You build this. Guardian Angels for the revival is really good for team fights where you feel like you're going to be focused out, and you taking the brunt of that focus and then dying and getting Guardian Angels to go would help you win the fight overall. So it's a great fifth item. Absolutely great fifth item. Serpent's Fang is a good fourth to fifth item if the enemy team's filled with shield champions. So if they have a Janna, a Karma, and they're just shield, 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 shield. Ivern as well as another one. And then if you don't build, you could also mix and match the core items that we talked about earlier as a fourth and fifth items if you really want to. And then Sterex is great if you want more tenacity. So if you're stacking tenacity, so if you're getting Mercs and then you're getting, Sterex, that's 50% tenacity you're going to get out of every CC super quick. And it gives you like anti-burst lifeline shield. Last but not least, Death's Dance is really good into AD comps. So it gives you extra survivability, ability haste, and damage. Fantastic. It also prevents you from dying for a little while, so you can keep pushing as much damage as possible to the very end. And so finally, the last section that we're going to be talking about is Jayce's abilities. Now, Jayce's abilities, all very straightforward. We're going to go ahead and level ourselves up a ton. And right now, there should be something popping up on the screen either over here or over there or wherever. And so that's going to show you all the potential. These are the two best skill orders for Jayce. Alright, and so this is the section of the video where we're going to talk about Jayce's abilities, right? So let's go starting with the passive. So Jayce's passive is that you get to swap between a melee hammer and a ranged cannon. And so swapping between those abilities basically grant him movement speed and the ability to be ghosted, which means he can move through characters. He can move through like hitboxes and whatnot. And so that's really, really nice for the minions and whatnot. It's super, super nice. See how this guy doesn't block us, but now he can suddenly block us. So that's what switching between your hammer form and your cannon form can do for you. So this is very good. So like, let's say you're in the middle of a minion wave and you need to reach the other guy. You can Q to push past the minions and then go for the in, right? And so we're gonna go ahead and start with the hammer abilities first. So Jayce's Q, super straightforward. It is a leap that hits the ground and hits surrounding enemies, slowing them for 50 slowing them for a percentage of movement based on level, right? So we're gonna go ahead and hit. As you can see, there is AoE damage right there. See, right there, perfect. And the great thing about Jayce's Q is that you can use it to traverse over terrain. So see, right there, you can Q over walls to get to the person and mess them the hell up. Now, Jayce's W in hammer form is this area of effect damage circle that deals dot over time. It's magic, so it doesn't scale off of any AD, right? And so it doesn't scale off any AD. It's just flat magic damage that you can use to help stack your conquer, to help stack damage over the course of a little duel that you're having with somebody and whatnot. And so that ends the explanation of W's. Now E is very interesting. E is basically a mini Lee Sin kick, right? Except you don't do damage for hitting other targets that it pushes into, but it's a mini Lee Sin E. So like earlier when I talked about the summoner spells, you can, for example, let's say this is the enemy ADC and we want to make a power play to get it into our team. So what we can do is we can Q, E, and flash. Right? So let me spin that right through you one more time. Q, flash, E. Right? And so that pretty much covers the explanation. What the heck? Pretty much covers the explanation to why we take flash. It's because we can pre-proc our E and then flash to push enemies, right? Pre-proc flash, pre-proc E flash, pre-proc E flash, and we can do that in multiple different directions to reposition our enemies so that they don't fucking get away from our team and whatnot. So it's really super useful. And that's pretty much the explanation for E, right? And then we're gonna switch to cannon form, right? And so with cannon form, you have the regular Q, which fires a projectile that deals damage. Then you have W, which makes your next 3 auto attacks go much, much faster. Now, when you're starting with your W, it's a lot less damage than your regular auto attack. So what you want to do is you want to weave it in like this. You want to start with an auto attack, then W, and then auto attack again. So that's 5 autos very quickly. And then as you progress further and further in, it's going to do even more damage than your auto attacks. Now E, you throw down a gate, and any allies that you that go through this gate are going to get a movement speed bonus. This is great for catching up to enemies, boosting up your team's mobility, whatnot. Even just standing in this and just gaining the ability to kite and move around faster than your opponent is going to be huge, right? Now, when you combine your E in cannon form with your Q, it fires a much larger skill shot with a much higher area of effect. So for example, boom, doesn't hit, and then we do the same here. You know, it's gonna be a bigger area of effect. Let's try going ahead and giving you an example of that, because that was a pretty bad example. So we're gonna Q right here, and it's not gonna hit this guy. But if we put the hyper gate and we fire, it's gonna hit both because it's much larger area of effect. Perfect. All right, awesome. Now, things that we can do in junction to one another with Jayce's abilities is that we can press W for the 3 auto attacks, jump in, and get the 3 quick auto attacks. So let me show that to you one more time. You press W, switch to hammer form, and you get the 3 empowered auto attacks. So that's really, really great. And vice versa, W can be swapped into range form, and so on and so forth. Your E can be out while your hammer form's out, so you can gain on people as a way to catch up to them. So you could do like, oh, oh, sorry. Sorry, I have like infinite cooldowns here. So we could go like, oh shit, I need to catch this dude, and then boom, you caught up to him and whatnot. And so what we want to do in terms of combos for like really, really good trade is go ahead and Q. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and Q, E, hypergate, fire, fire, fire. So we go W, Q, E, fire, 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 and boom, right? So we're gonna do that one more time. We're gonna go Q, W, E, fire, 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 and boom, big hit, right? We want to spawn the E on ourselves. I'm being really silly with this because I'm a little nervous. My first time doing a little guide video. So we're going to do that. Bop, bop, bop. And then boom. Big damage on that. So that's pretty much that. And then we can EQ, switch to the thingy, go crazy with it, smack them around, do whatever, right? So that's that. Now, last thing to explain is going to be the hammer and cannon form and what they do. So, obviously switching to cannon gives you the ability to be ranged. But it also, when you switch, the first auto attack is going to reduce armor and magic resist by 25%. So you can see that right there with the icon. Armor and magic resist have been reduced by 25%. Huge. Huge, right? And then your Q is going to be giving you extra armor and magic resist. So you can see at the bottom left here, there is extra armor and magic resist comparatively. And this is based on your level. And so your next auto attack with hammer form is just going to do a fuck ton of magic damage, right? Huge. And so that pretty much finishes that up. Alright everybody, that pretty much sums up this whole video. If you did find anything that could be added, please make sure to add it into the comments, as it will help not only me but other people in the community. Let's help each other out, learn more about Jayce and other characters as I continue making these guide videos. And please let me know if you enjoyed these guide videos in the comments. If you did find this helpful or entertaining in any way, shape, or form, please consider liking and subscribing, as it helps a ton for my channel and appeasing the YouTube algorithm gods. May they be, merciful upon me. With that all said, you guys have yourselves a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye!